Hey guys, what's up? It's iFlynn here, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the new Excalibur changes that came with the techrot encore update. Now, I'm not even kidding, guys. They took Excalibur, who was maybe like a B tier Warframe, and they've made him S tier just with the techrot encore update. The changes that they've made to him are absolutely insane. Now, if you've been living under a rock, or let's say you haven't played Warframe in a while, basically what they've done is they've made it so that exalted weapons can now use mods and arcanes that they couldn't previously use, and pseudo exalted weapons have been changed up as well, so you don't need a stat stick. And this has changed a lot of different interactions on a lot of Warframes like Excalibur, Atlas, Buruk, etc. And some of them have kind of been made worse, some of them have been made better, and I would say that Excalibur is the frame that has benefited the most. Like, he's got the most insane glow up out of all of them. So I'm going to be showing you guys a few different builds. So what we want to look at first actually is our Exalted Blade build. Now, if you guys don't know, previously you weren't able to use arcanes on these exalted weapons, but now we're using melee influence, and this is quite insane because whenever we apply a melee status effect, there's a 20% chance for that to apply to basically all of the enemies around. So this is a very standard just melee influence build that we're rocking on Excalibur here, and it's nothing too crazy. Condition overload for damage, prime fury for attack speed, a smite mod for the double dip on the status effects, shock and touch for even more electric damage. This isn't needed, and we'll talk a little bit about why I've got it on and why you might want to replace it in a second. We got blood rush for crit chance. This was a mod that you couldn't use on Excalibur before. Weeping wounds for more status chance to apply that electric even more, prime reach for more range, you can swap this off if you want, and galvanize elementalist for more status damage. You can also swap this off if you want as well. Now, this is the build that I'm just going to stick to on my Excalibur because you're going to see, like, it is quite nuts, and like it just deals a crazy amount of damage. It does what I want it to do, so I don't really see the need to change that out. But there are reasons that you might want to throw on, like, let's say for example, more critical chance or more critical damage, depending on what you're trying to do with Excalibur, right? Now, if we move on to the build, I've got actually 5 different builds to show you guys. They're all pretty much the same idea, and I'm going to tell you guys what you can swap out. But there's only like a little bit of variation between all of the builds and the Raffle Advanced build, which is the second build that I've got going. But basically, what you want to do now is you want to go ahead and remove Radial Blind for a Helmet ability. So you can put in Roar, you can put in Raffle Advanced, you can put in Nourish, Warcry, Zada's Whisper. Pick the damage buff and ability that you like the most and throw it over Radial Blind, and you're going to be doing a good thing. You do not, and I repeat, you do not want to subsum off Exalted Blade. This is a thing of the past. You need to keep Exalted Blade on because Slash Dash is a pseudo exalted kind of, and now Exalted Blade is Slash Dash's stat stick, if that makes any sense. So the mods that you've got equipped to your Exalted Blade are going to apply to Slash Dash. So whenever you make an Excalibur build now, you're making an Exalted Blade build and also a Slash Dash build in the one build now. Previously, people would go out of their way to, you know, make a Slash Dash specific build or an Exalted Blade specific build. You don't have to take either of those off now to, you know, do the other build, if that makes sense. So all of the builds that I'm going to show you guys, you're going to be able to use either Slash Dash or Exalted Blade, whichever is your preferred playstyle, and you're still going to be able to basically kill everything, going up into super duper, like maybe even level cap content. So the first thing that I want to draw your guys' attention to is this Mecha set. So I've got Mecha Empowered on and Mecha Pulse. Now I'm running this. You don't have to run this. The reason that I'm running this is because basically if you run your dog, so your Kubro, mine is a Huras Kubro. This is the one that makes me go invisible. This is the build that I'm rocking on the actual Kubro itself. And then this is what I've got on the claws. You got to make sure that you've got the mecha mod on the claws, the mecha mod on the Kubro, and then one of the mecha mods at least on your Warframe. I like to run 2 of them because it just makes the pet mark enemies more frequently. Whenever we kill an enemy that has a mark on it from our pet, what's going to happen is all of the status effects that is applied to that enemy is going to spread to even more enemies. So I like to run this because we're just able to nuke entire rooms of Excalibur. Then the next thing that we got to keep in mind is our energy drain on our Exalted Blade. Now, my energy drain stats aren't too bad. It's 2 energy a second, but with the amount that you're going to be killing enemies with this build, this is not going to matter like at all. You're always going to have energy orbs laying on the ground and stuff like that. On top of that, we're running Equilibrium too, so a health orb is also going to restore your energy. So Prime Flow, Equilibrium, that basically has a sort it whenever it comes to energy sustain. I'm running Power Drift, Transient Fortitude, Umbral Intensify, and Mult Augmented to buff up my ability strength stat. Also, I've got 3 of the Tau Forged Crimson Shards on for even more ability strength. My yellow shards here are just for casting speed, so if I'm casting Roar, I don't get stuck in that long animation and end up dying because of it. The Chromatic Blade augment, just so we can deal even more damage to enemies. It's going to mimic the weakness that the enemy has in terms of the elements. And then we also have Furious Javelin on here to up the amount of melee damage that we deal per enemy hit from our Radial Javelin ability. Prime Continuity actually reduces that drain over time of our energy, and it extends the duration of, let's say, for example, Roar or the buff from Radial Javelin, so it makes sense to have this on. And then finally, we've got Arcane Fury on here, just so we get more melee damage on our Chromatic Blade or Slash Dash or whatever. And because I'm running Condition Overload on my Exalted Blade, it kind of forces me into running a primer. Now, you don't have to run a primer. You don't have to run Condition Overload. You can go ahead and swap Condition Overload out for Prime Pressure Point and totally skip this step. But I like running this simply because, you know, it deals more damage. And on top of that, I have Secondary Fortifier on here. So I basically never die because I always have around 15,000 Overguard. So as you guys can see, or maybe you can't see, I'm invisible. And that's simply because of my dog. Now, if I were to shoot or melee, I become visible again. But then if I stand around these enemies for long enough, what's going to happen is my dog is going to make me invisible again anytime now. There we go. And the cool thing about this is you can use your abilities while you're invisible, right? So I can use my Roar, I can use my Javelin for the buff, I can cast my Exalted Blade, and I can even use Slash Dash and go in between all of the enemies. And as you guys can see, one cast of Slash Dash with my buff supplied, and, you know, without Mult Augmented stacks and stuff like that, we just killed those level 230 Steel Path heavy bombards with, you know, Xmas, blah, blah, blah. So Slash Dash is basically always going to be better than your Exalted Blade, kinda, but of course, because we can do this 2-in-1 build now, we can use the Exalted Blade and we can, you know, deal a lot of damage that way. You can see all the bad guys basically die. You can just run around and hold E. I didn't even have any buffs turned on that time. Like, I didn't have my Roar, I didn't have my Javelin buff, and we still killed those enemies extremely fast. We didn't even prime the enemies either. So whenever you start priming, you use your Roar, you use your Javelin, and then you hold E, you can see that they die 10 times quicker. So the real gameplay loop is just make sure that you have your Roar active, go ahead and get between as many enemies as possible, use your Javelin, and then you can see the buff that it gives you. So I got 820% from that cast. Then you can either use your Exalted Blade or use your Slash Dash to go ahead and kill all of the enemies, and Melee Influence is just going to spread all of those procs. And if you're not killing the enemies with like a single swing or something like that, go ahead, prime them, and then swing, and then they'll die. And that's basically the Roar build. This would be the build that I recommend that 90% of you go for, because not only will this, you know, make your Excalibur deal a lot of damage, but it's also going to make the weapons that you're using deal a lot of damage too, because you're using, you know, Roar. And if you are using like a different melee weapon or something, well, you know, Radial Javelin is going to help out with that too, implying you've got the augment on, of course. The next build that we're running is a Wrathful Advance build, so I've took off a little bit of strength to throw on a little bit more duration, because I felt like the duration stat on Wrathful Advance was way too low. And what this build is going to do is it's going to allow us to basically like permanently red crit with our Exalted Blade. So it's kind of the same idea. You want to go ahead, get your buff from your third ability like so, and then what you want to do, actually pause the game, go to options, go to invert tap hold abilities, find where it says Curvo, and then swap it so that it is inverted, right? Now what this does, it allows us to just tap to do a teleport, and now we get our crit buff, right? So there's 204% more crit. So if we whip out our Exalted Blade, you can see that we're dealing orange crits, and as we build up our multi-augmented stacks and stuff like that, that is going to push us into red crit territory. On top of that, we got Blood Rush on, so as we build up our melee combo counter, even more crit chance, so even more red crits. And the other cool thing, whenever you build up your combo, so if you look in the bottom right hand corner, you can see my combo building up and up and up and up. If we go ahead and we hold down Wrathful Advance, we can do this cool TP strike, and it basically just one-shots everything around us. So that's just super cool. You want to just use it, build up your combo, and then whenever there's a really tanky enemy like a Frax or something like that, you can just hold down the 2, boom, everything is dead around you. This also works with the slash dash build, so you can see that I get some red crits, orange crits from the slash dash. So yeah, just like we mentioned, you've got both the slash dash and the Exalted Blade built into one, and it's just a different method of damage buffing if you think about it. You know, it's Roar versus Wrathful Advance. It's like full melee investment versus like investing in the entire kit kind of. But of course, you do need to drop a little bit of the ability strength for the extra duration, because even with 183% duration, if I cast my Wrathful Advance, it's only 18 seconds long, so that kind of sucks. But yeah, really good build, especially if you like seeing those red numbers. I've also thrown together a Nourish build. Now, this is a build for people who maybe struggle a little bit when they're playing Warframe at a higher level. What this build is going to do is it's just going to make it so that you apply viral with all of your attacks, and also you're going to get more energy from the energy sources that you're already picking up, right? So a blue energy orb is going to give you more energy because you have Nourish activated. This doesn't totally eliminate the need for a primer. If you throw a primer into the mix, so you start priming with your epitaph, you can swap viral off of the primer for, let's say, corrosive or something like that, and you'll get more damage that way. But you don't need to think about, you know, applying viral to deal extra damage with your electric DOT from Chromatic Blade or Slash Dash. So as you guys can see, we still deal like a ton of damage, right? You're not like missing out in the amount of damage that you're dealing just because you're using Nourish. Like, it's still a-okay to run Nourish. They all basically just disintegrate in front of you anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. On top of that, you've got the added benefit. This is also going to apply to your teammates too, so this is kind of like a Excal sort of buffing ability. It's all about just making flexible builds, having more options, because let's say, for example, I'm doing like a Deep Archimedia, and my friend happens to be running a build that has Roar on it. There's no real reason for me to also run Roar. I could run Wrathful Advance or Nourish or whatever, and then I would deal more total damage in that mission because my buddy is buffing me up with his Roar. Another option you've got is Zada's Whisper. This used to be very, 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 very broken with Exalted Blade. I would say if you've already got it on your Excalibur from when it was really broken, just go ahead and keep it on. So cast my 2, that's the buff, cast the 3, more buff, cast the 4. You can see those little bubbles that are applying around the enemies. So those are just going to basically catch your waves and deal more damage to the enemies around you. So Zada's Whisper has some like funky interactions, so yeah, it's not my favorite personally. Like, I would rather go for, you know, the Roar or the Nourish or the Wrathful Advance, but, you know, it's definitely an option. Like I said, if you've already got it on Excalibur, as you can see, like, you're dealing tons of damage with Chromatic Blade plus Influence anyway, and this is just going to amplify that damage even more and maybe set you up for some wacky interactions with Incarnate Weapons or something like that. And then the last build that I've got going on here, this is actually a Warcry build. This is if you simply just want to run around with Chromatic Blade and then hold down, you know, left click. So you cast your Warcry, bring out your blade, just hold down left click, and as you get kills, you can see that the duration is going to climb up and up and up. Your attack speed is like super high. Obviously, if you cast it with the more multi-augmented stacks, it's going to be even faster. But you're permanently just attack speed buffed and you deal tons of damage, and that's because of Eternal War Augment. So whenever you get melee kills, you increase the duration by 2 seconds. Really good, really nice. The last thing that I would recommend is basically just run a primary weapon. It doesn't even have to be one that you're going to be dealing damage with. Just go ahead and throw on primary dexterity, and the reason I recommend this is because it's going to give you 7.5 seconds of combo duration, and that's just going to help you keep up the combo on your Excalibur, right? Like, That's all that it really does, and by keeping that combo higher, you're just, you know, maximizing your damage output. But personally, my absolute favorite build has to be this Wrathful Advanced one, where I can just go ahead, whip out my blade, build up my combo a little bit, you know, maybe prime the enemies or whatever, like so, and then I can just go Chromatic Blade, boom, like this, and everything is dead. I just think that teleport slice and everything just dying around me is like, it's just super cool, right? Like, no effort involved, just press the button, everything's dead. It's an awesome build. If you're not running these mecha mods on your Warframe or on your companion, just go ahead and swap them out for like literally anything. You could run more strength for more duration in the place of Mecha Pulse. You could go ahead and run corrosive projection in the place of Mecha Empowered. And then for your companion, you could just swap back to using a regular Panzer Vulpaphyla. I can never say that word first try. Panzer Vulpaphyla, and that's going to spread viral for you to sort of like amplify your damage output. That's just how you keep it simple. But yeah, last thing is maybe, you know, having the Furax Wraith with this augment on, so that if you are running the Epitaph Primer, it's got a little bit more fire rate, you can do that. But that's basically it. That's everything you need to know about the new Exalted Excalibur. He's busted. He's insanely broken. Like, get an Excalibur and play him. Like, take him into a mission that you struggle with these builds, and just melt everything. Like, it's fun. You know, just go do it. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Like it if you liked it. Sub for more Warframe content. I'll see you guys in the next one.